Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Leadership Point of View. Appreciate you being here today. Leadership Point of View is a webinar inspirational series that wants to bring the idea of offering sharp insights on forward-thinking topics and provide a chance to meet thought leaders that maybe are not so much common out there or less known, but in specific regions. But they share perspectives on key leadership challenges in a really great way. And today you sign up for the leadership point of view on why product teams struggle to focus. And we bring Timoté Geimer, which is the CEO of Dualoop, a consulting firm specializing in product management and product design. I know Timoté already for quite a long time. We both were at a startup called Talent Square, HR tech platform. We learn a lot, and he's definitely one of the product thinkers, one of the best product thinkers I've met in my career. And Timoté will explore how leadership can make or break product teams, highlighting the essential steps that it takes them to gain focus and what are some of the leadership lessons that he has. We're going to go do in an interactive way. You can use the chat function to ask questions, to introduce yourselves, maybe where you're coming from, your name. And as I welcome Timoté to the chat, we're going to start the conversation, and if you have questions throughout it, please use the chat. We'll bring them on board. We want to make this interactive, bring the point of view, and at the end of it, also we'll have more interaction for whoever stays behind. And with that, Timoté, welcome to the leadership point of view. Long time.
Indeed. Thanks. Hey, everyone. Glad to have the session with you, and indeed, still remember our early days at Talent Square, so it reminds me a lot of great memories there.
Yes. The first time we both went to Argentina were together, and it's 2 weeks that we'll never forget. With plenty of stories. Having said this, Timoté, thanks for joining the webinar series. And I think I let you take the initial leads, and when you go through the presentation, I'll engage and interact. And again, same for the audience. Please engage on the questions and be proactive. This is for everyone. I recommend also to remove snooze notifications, be focused, 25 minutes. It's all it takes after lunch to get inspiration for your prior to your weekend. So, Timoté, go ahead.
Let's go. Great. You can see my slide. I just have to adjust myself to make sure that I can also see all of you. Up. And you lost me.
Yeah, lost the screen. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Not a problem. We have time. There you go.
Now you can see it. Awesome. Great. So thanks again for having me today. Glad that we'll be able to spend that bit of time together. As you say, I'm Timoté. I'm the CEO of Dualoop. We're a consulting firm. But before that, I've worked for the past 13 years, I think, in the tech industry, always leading products and sometimes broader scope in tech, startup, scale-up, corporate ventures, going from hyper-growth to hyper-fail, I would say. And then 3 years ago, I decided to take a bit of a different path. That's how I ended up creating a consulting firm. Won't talk too much about that, but just to give you a bit of perspective, we're based in Belgium. In 3 years, we went from 0 to 27 people, roughly. Keep on growing. We operate in Belgium, in the UK, and in Germany, a bit of Norway as well. And we basically do 4 things. One is really what you call shape. We do org design and org redesign. That's why when you go propose me to have that webinar, I'm like, oh yeah, definitely. I have a lot to say on that topic. Shape is really about designing, structuring, or restructuring departments. Then we have second pillars, what we call empower, where we do group coaching, individual group coaching and trainings. And we have build, where we do discovery tracks and research for customers and can take up to the shape of corporate venturing. And then the fourth one is more traditional people leading. So or staff augmentation. So we place people into organizations for a longer period of time. That's just for the scene. At least you know who you're talking to, who you're listening to. Naturally here, my goal was really to talk a bit about thinking about leadership, but maybe more in the aspect of product. And one of them is well, I think the first thing we should talk about is product management, right? And being a PM definitely is tough. I mean, not just tough, like really tough. And there's many reasons for that, and probably you will hear a leader in any industry, they will say the same about the industry. Uh, so you can replace PM by everything. Yeah, staff being in a job, in a role. Product management is a bit challenging because you're in the between of so many words, and you are in the middle of that spider web, and you have to interact with so many people that makes your life a bit complex. And when we talk about leadership, naturally the complexity is probably skill as well, because you have to give direction most of the time where you're expected to give a direction where you sometimes also figuring out yourself. So I try to structure a bit my intervention here into a couple of key elements or a few things that for me are the reason why most of the time teams and product teams are losing their focus or losing their edge. And most of the time, I also learned it the hard way. I must insist on that. So I'm not here to tell you everything, the great things that happened to me, but also a bit of the challenge and the mistakes I made myself. And probably the first one is that yeah, bad strategy is sometimes much worse than not having any strategy at all, because a bad strategy creates confusion. Now I can already see you and like, yeah, okay, but what is a good strategy? I haven't met one. uh, uh, Joke aside, the issue what I see is most of the time people confuse a mission or a vision or something very vague with a strategy. So you will have sometimes that they are just vague thing definition and not really explaining how you get there, or sometimes they're just overshooting the ambition or from what the ambition are. And quite often it leads to not being able to translate that operation into your organization. I know you go on right from the beginning. I think for over the years we always talked about that and how do you operationalize and transform and for translate the strategy into concrete actions. Even Ritmoo is about that. Really being able to translate and give clear objectives. That's usually a biggest challenge. If you have a bad strategy, you can't translate that. And the opposite, I also see people that call strategy just an operational plan on how to get things there, and sometimes quite too shortcoming. And in both cases, this ends up creating confusion or misalignment into the organization. Well, on one extreme, if you're way too broad and if your strategy is actually not clear, then definitely you push the interpretation to lower sections and segment into your organization where you are not equipped, and probably there will diverge way too fast, so they can't focus. And the other one, if you are too shortcoming and too operational and just saying, really focus on output and say we'll deliver X, without guidance and without measuring how this X will actually contribute to something greater and bigger. But then again, you create confusion because you will end up into delivering things that don't bring any value, or you will end up not delivering anything and create scope creep.
And Timoté, on this part of the bad strategies worse than no strategy, sometimes you spend too much time on a strategy, you don't know that it is a bad one until very late in the game. Do you have a way where you have a system or signals that you know that you already are going on the wrong direction? Sometimes could be the metrics that are not there, but how do you know that you are getting into the bad strategy before it's too late? You know, is there any signals that you have?
That's a great one. I think the second one is really easy. If you start talking about output, definitely you're in the right direction. This is not a strategy. This is just a plan on delivering things. But the question is really, what are you trying to achieve, and being clear on that. And I think that you should be able to define the things that you want to achieve and how you'll measure that. And if you're not able to do that, then take a break and challenge yourself on that. Now, what I see is that the earlier you are, the less able you are to predict the future. I mean, let's be clear, no one can predict the future, right? But if you apply first principle, if you try to have just pragmatical view on where you are, what will most likely happen, and what is reasonable target you have, that will already help you. And quite often I see early stage startup try to have a plan, and building a strategy will be last with for 3 years. I mean, that's impossible. Be reasonable, and if you're really early stage, try to set yourself target for 3 months, and that's already a good thing. And then you see and learn along the way. And the further you are, the better you are at predicting your future, understanding your environment, the better you'll be. And at some point, you will be able to start building things that will last for 1 year, 2 years, and you can revise.
Okay. No, very good.
Uh, and that's usually the advice that I'm saying. Just be pragmatical. Create something. A strategy is a tool, but then a tool must serve a purpose. So you should ask yourself, why do you need a strategy, and how will it help you to guide others, so that afterwards, when you will have built it, just ask yourself, so reasonably, if I take a step back, is that thing will that thing help me to reach my goals? Are my goals clear?
Hmm. No, really great examples. Thanks.
And then another thing that I'm doing sometimes, and then if you present your strategy, then 1 week after, take 1, 2 people that were in the room and just ask them genuinely, say, can you explain me and translate with your words the strategy? If they are not able to do that after 2 weeks, then you know that you've done it wrong. At board level is really something funny that I always try to, because I do the exercise when we do an audit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I go to the board and say, look, guys, you're telling me that your strategy is clear. Do you really want me to give you the record of what people tell about your strategy? And they're like, yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah, better not listen to that.
So strategy eats feedback for breakfast. I think that one is really important. And it's connected to the other, to the previous point. A strategy is an anticipation of the future. So try to predict what will happen or where you want to go. But when you want to go depends on the environment and what will happen. So you need to review and challenge your strategy constantly based on the feedback you collect from the market. When I say constantly, of course, you can't change your strategy every day, right? But I think that you have to do it periodically and more often than you think. I think if you have a strategy that you, and I'll be very careful on strategy. So please, if there are theorists of strategy in the call, let's be clear. From my point of view, strategy doesn't have to be a 3 year thing. Like I said, depending on your size of your company and your ability to really predict your future, your time spent might be much shorter. But assuming that your goal is to have a strategy that will last for a year, let's say that you are a 50 plus sized company or something like that. Should you be in that situation, I would really believe that you will have to review your strategy every quarter. So you say, whatever you learned during this quarter, what were goals, and how did this strategy has been translated into operational goals? Have we met them? Or if we haven't met them, what happened along the way? And are those insights challenging our perception of the reality? And should we revise our plans? And should we revise our strategy?
Okay. And have you found a specific cycle that tends to work well? For example, for smaller companies, is it that a 1 year plan is enough and every quarter you revisit some elements of it? Or because I understand this 3 year plan, especially now, it's moving so fast, does it make even sense? So,
We had wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
AI, all this kind of technology, or like the VC changing the landscape. But
Yep.
do you find that there is a specific cycle that tends to work well across different multiple organizations, or you find that it's too unique to their situation?
Well, back of the envelope, I would say that if you are pre-series B, right? If you're in the VC track, let's say pre-series B, or assuming probably you'll be up until, let's say, 150 FTEs, something like that. If you have a 1 year strategy already and you revise that every quarter, you're good. And then once you get bigger in that, probably you will have something that can stick for 2 years, and then you can review it every 6 months. Because it doesn't have to take long. If you had a great strategy, I mean, you just sit with your key people and you just have the report. Because in any way, I mean, it's good to have a cadence where you can check what you achieve and what are your goals and reviewing that. So the extra effort is to say, hey, but our bigger plan, our strategy, is it still something that it's okay, or should we review it? And sometimes, for most of the time, it will be quite obvious. The first answer will be yes or no. And if it's a yes, but then you have to plan for the next step. And the one thing though that is really important when I talk about feedback, it's also really looking at it from an inside perspective, because way too often I see companies building the strategy, and what they do, they rent a room, or they go on an offsite with just the management team. They don't really prepare. They just go take post-its and have someone animate a session, and then they create a strategy based on post-it, takes pictures, then they write it down, say, great, we have a strategy. That's not a strategy. That's just that's just bullshit. It's based on fact. I mean, if you want to build a strategy, it's based on data and insights. It takes time to be prepared, and that's something most people forget. It's not just about guessing things. It's just not about what you the default information that you have. No, it's about really going from what are the insights, what are the data that we have, and how all those information can help us to actually take the right decision afterward.
Yeah. Nice. So what? Yeah, I knew that you were gonna have a next one.
The next one is probably slightly more focused on product, because I always see. I mean, every week I see a post about strong product managers are able to say no. Well, negotiations start with a no, right? As Chris Voss said in his book. Great book, by the way. If you start saying no, you enter into recognizing that the feedback or the request is valuable to you losing. Whereas the focus is not on the no's, it's on the one where you say yes. And the question and the alignment comes from all the yes that you are making and ensuring that they reach clear outcomes. So focusing on the no's won't lead you anywhere besides being the no person in the room, and besides being the grumpy person inside. No, it's about saying yes to the right things and being able to align on making sure that all those yes are heading into the right direction and being in line with your strategy, making sure that all the yes that you are doing are converging and helping you to bring focus into your organization. It's a bit conceptual, I understand, but
No,
take the situation as a project leader.
I can see the interesting part, because it's always like saying, yeah, what you say no to. But if your roadmap is a roadmap that has, I don't know, more story points of work than ever before, saying no doesn't really going to help out. Yeah, but if you align on the yes with a clear outcome across multiple teams at times, I can see why that can be an interesting, more powerful lesson than just saying no. Yeah, because saying no doesn't mean that you're still going to deliver on things. You might reduce the workload, but indeed, you might still be completely misalignment on the way of executing the yeses, and that leads to bigger challenges. Yeah.
So it's pretty simple. You will say yes to things. So instead of focusing on what you should say yes, I would rather focus on say, are all the things we said yes still converging and going into the right direction, and are all those yes helping us to reach the outcomes we want to measure and we want to achieve? Because then, if you start having alignment, you will see that you will have less and less requests that are going out of that scope, and you will have less and less necessity to say no because you bring alignment into your organization. Whereas if you spend too much time just saying no to all of them instead and not educating your organization, not leveraging all those opportunities to have conversation that helps bring clarity into your organization and lead to focus, then it's a wasted effort.
Okay.
Still related to that one, focus demands simplicity, and complexity creeps in usually when the roles and the goals are unclear. Going back to what we were saying, org design plays a key role here. To stay focused, things need to stay simple, right? If you start having too many goals or too many interactions on too many things, then you can't focus anymore. And the organization design plays a key role into that. Way too often when I arrive into organization, I can see clearly how things won't work because you have roles and responsibilities that are overlapping, and then you'll have people that depends on X or 5, 10 other people to actually achieve something very simple. If you're in that situation, that's the first thing to solve. Most of the time, it comes from a clear strategy that is badly translated and it's opening way too many doors. Nowadays, a funnel principles. So the broader is the top, the broader will be exponentially broader, the bottom will be. So if you don't have focus and clarity on the top, you won't be able to converge, whereas you will diverge even more. So the goal is that divergence is inevitable, right?
Yeah.
This is something that you can't escape from, because the more people, the more divergence.
And do you see a difference between complexity and complicated?
Ooh, can you develop your question there?
Yeah, so I was thinking, because simplicity, but sometimes things are complex. But sometimes I'm trying to understand if sometimes on product teams or product leadership, the focus is hard because people complicate things. That complexity is always there; it creeps in. So I'm trying to know if you have a vision on like, no, like things are complex, but maybe there is a split between both. I don't know. I'm asking just.
I would use complexity and complication as two synonyms in this context. To answer your question, in the sense that first, most of companies tend to think that their environment is more complex than the other one and more unique, and that to justify the situation and the mess that they have created. But to be frankly, to be honest, I've been now working over the past 3 years in 36 industries. It's the same everywhere. Starts with people and a clear objective. If you have a clear objective, then you struggle.
Yeah.
And it's also with people. The one thing that is unique in every organization are the people. That's for sure. So always people over processes and over tools. And I would say that your design is a bit more on the process side. So it means that you need to have a clear strategy, and then first essence, where do you want to go? And do we have the right people? And then how can we organize and how those people organize themselves in order to reach those goals? And how can we make sure that each of those entities have clear goals and end-to-end responsibilities?
Yeah.
And what you'll realize is most of the time people don't have end-to-end responsibility because we are breaking the chain away too often.
Yeah, no, I see.
And probably you'll hear me saying that a lot, but it all comes quite often from Taylor, and because we went to school, and the one thing that we have all learned at school is Industrial Revolution, and how great Taylor and Ford had an impact on structuring and making us more efficient. We've been teach about efficiency for decades, right?
Yeah.
So naturally, this is our go-to. So breaking down complex problem into very simple one and trying to be efficient in each of the pieces. That works well when you are building the same thing multiple times and a million times. So on the supply chain, it works well. You build a car, it's always the same car. You want to use a million car, then definitely optimize each piece of them, because then eventually the sum of that will be more efficient and reduce cost or blah, 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 whatever. But in the digital world, or in the software space, or in the startup space, you build things that are unique. Unless you're copying others, right? But if you're not copying others and you want to innovate, you build things that is unique. And once it is built, you go for the next thing, and you'll never build twice the same thing. So, you can't make that thing more efficient. It's much more important than having an end-to-end responsibility, end-to-end view, so that people can really, on an entire chain, try to optimize the way they work. But if you start breaking that down, you're screwed. So that's where most of the time people fail, because they will start saying, oh yeah, but I see there are 3 teams that are all doing analysis. Let's bring a function analyst that will work for the 4 team. And then say, oh, but let's break down PO and PM, and then you have business analysts, and you have things, and then you will have subject matter experts, and then you will have, and then they start bringing all those people and just trying to over optimize, because on the edge, that person can eventually be better. But then they all lose context. They all lose the objective at the end. And there are so many things, and then all the information and the knowledge is breaking down into so many brains that can't, and then you're losing substantially the efficiency, and you're creating confusion and chaos.
Yeah. No, it's a great example. I know that we have 2 more lessons learned that I want to go through, because I want to start taking on some of the questions here. But I know that you have 2 really nice ones that I actually want to
oh, time is reflying.
Time flies when we are having fun. At least 2 of us. I hope the rest. But But I mean, you have two that are really interesting. So that's why I want to really get people to get
Okay,
those.
I'll go fast on those one. Stakeholder
Because,
management is the hard things the one teaches you.
yeah,
I think that's where both of us can really connect, because we really learned it the hard way at N Square.
yeah, for
And you
reference,
teach me great lessons on.
I think it's good to give a reference to people that the organization, despite having an interesting momentum, had a development agency in Argentina, had 18 shareholders, but two of them actually were more in control. And it had so many different variances of stakeholder insights and input, to the point that some of the stakeholders invested because they want to see part of their product in the product that we were building. Without any context of the customer feedback. It's just, I invested on you so that you can incorporate my product, So it was, the stakeholder management is definitely something no one teaches you. But I'm curious, why do you think it takes focus out of product leaders? Why do you think that makes it hard to focus? Or is the lesson something else?
No, I think that as a leader, if you are not able to understand how to manage your stakeholders in an efficient way, this will create inevitably confusion because you will be manipulated. And without bad intention, I mean, no one wakes up and say, I'll be manipulating others, but it's just that people have that sense of influence that is higher than yours, probably at some extent. And you must be equipped to be able to hold your boat and keep the direction and steer everyone. Because as a product leader, you don't have that much influence, right? You're lucky if you're at the board level of the management level, great, okay. But quite often you're not, or if you're just a product manager, you're not at the beginning, and you don't have to prove your point. And even if you are at the management level, the sales probably will have a bit more influence than you because you can bring direct cash on the table, and most of the time, cash is king. So if you don't know how to deal with those people and you unite them and influence them or lead them into the right direction, then you're screwed.
Okay.
And I've seen many product person that were really good individual contributor, but failing at their leading their teams or creating a big mess or big chaos because they are just influenced too much by the others.
I think that leads to your last learning.
Hard work really pays off. I know that one is counterintuitive, but keep in mind that it's not because working is not the metrics that you have to follow. Keeping people busy won't make you successful. And it's rarely the case, actually, right? Because if you look at the amount of effort, quite often it's not the one thing that where you work the most that has the most impact. So work is not a measure of success, which also means that taking tough decisions must happen at any point in time. I still remember recently, a couple of months ago, an entire engineering team that got really pissed off because just before the release, and they worked for a couple of months on something, I pulled the plug and I just say that's not going into production. And they were like, yeah, but you work so much on that. And I say, great, but we're still not reaching our goals. And this may have way too much negative impact on what you were doing. So that's not going to happen. Just go back on the whiteboard and work again. It's tough. And everyone hates that because it's work. And at some point, we always want to feel proud of what we do, but we have to look that through the hands of the outcomes. And if it's not reading in the right direction, then don't do it. And too bad if you work too hard on that, then you'll learn.
No, I recall this element of hard work really paying off, because you keep yourself busy, and then if you don't step back and reflect, you end up making unconscious choices that affect such a focus. And I remember that even recently with my own goal management software we are building, we went on this rabbit hole of people are asking integrations, and it's always like, you always need integrations. There's always integrations to be done, which is, from a product point of view, always massive amount of hard work to make it look nice and work well. So you were thinking, are we really going to go into a 3-month hiatus of integrations when you don't know if people will really use it or not? They might have a wishful list, but is it really solving a problem? And but nonetheless, we thought, okay, let's just try to give it a try, and then we end up spending 2-3 months on integrations, and then launch, and then the usage was almost limited to none. Because people said, oh, but I got used at I got used to use the software without integrations, and I realized I actually like it now because it's less noisy. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake. So yeah, hard work sometimes. Sometimes we look too much to the answers and don't ask the right questions. And I think this is a good liaison for your final slide on the keys to success, because I like a lot the bottom of the questions.
Yeah, definitely. We're running out of time, unfortunately, and but key to success are probably, if I have to remember two of those, one, take the two extreme. Apply first principle. Complex problem can always be breaking down into very simple ones. And then if you're not able to break them down into something simple that you understand, then don't move forward, because it means that it's not clear enough for you to be able to take an enlightened decision. And if I take the other one, communicate, communicate, communicate. You never ever communicate enough. And I even now, even though I know that, I keep on saying that, I realize that I'm not even communicating enough within the organization, because it's something that, if you're a leader, you're always in that area. You're always thinking about the strategy. You're always thinking about the future. But your teams, they are focused on the now, or maybe in the tomorrow. But that's their reality, and you cannot expect them always to build a bridge and always be in the now and in the future at the same time. This is your responsibility. So it's your responsibility to help them to understand and to remember your longer goals. And if you don't do that, you're not playing your role as a leader, and this will create problem afterward that you will have to compensate for.
Okay, no, good. I like a lot this combination. There's a lot of good elements of success here for a product leadership team. Looking at where on top of the hour, and I also want to be respectful of people's time, I do want to take on some of the questions and conversations that were happening from people having fun with offsites with post-its. But Marco does have a question that I want to bring to the stream about more specific to perhaps on the product strategy, and if visual management tools like graphical recording, mind maps, using workshops and debriefs, if it's a better way into the company as a way to embed a product strategy.
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure you'll like my answer, but a tool remains a tool. I would say that it depends on who is in the room and what is the problem that you're trying to solve. Most of the time, it's a preparation the issue. So strategy sessions are not prepared enough, and you don't have enough facts and data context in order to take and to do those workshops. If that is done, then you will have a group that will have the same level of knowledge and same level of insight, and your workshop will be much easier. And in that case, then you'll have to think of whether they like to have some digital tools or they prefer to have the physical ones. And based on that, probably you'll find your answers. The one tip though that I will give is probably not, I can guarantee, I'm pretty much sure that you'll never have 100% of the people attending the session that will be prepared. Most of the time people won't prepare, or most of the time people will still stick to their gut feelings. And you'll have to go over that, but you will have to leverage it and making sure that everyone understands that you're not taking then a decision and you're just eventually building some assumptions. And to do so, what I always recommend is to use a color code, having green, orange, and red. So every time that everyone says a statement or something, you just say, is it based on facts and data? Do you have proof points? And then you can have a scale. And green is that, yes, there are valid proof point that everyone agrees on. Okay, that's a green. Orange is that we have some vague data or probably an email somewhere that proves something. But that's something you can eventually accept, but you will have to double check. That's an orange. And then there are things that are just gut feelings. That's red. And then move forward. And at the end, then you will have something. You will have the same visual, but you will have different color codes. And thanks to that, you will be able at the end of the session to say, okay, we have assumption and we'll build a strategy based on certain assumptions. And all the red is our top priority, and we'll have to uncover that. And any month from now, we'll reassess that strategy based on the insights that we'll have taken on those. That will allow you to unlock a situation, but force everyone to understand that taking decision on a strategy comes by the hard work, and that's probably where you should spend the most of your time, not necessarily on the operation side.
Okay, no, thanks. I think there is, yeah, okay, there was more of a general comment from Ari. Thanks for all the engagement, Ari. It was really nice to see that engagement from you. Yeah, okay, so yeah, a lot of things related. Glad to see it. Maybe one final one, unless someone has a question or a comment, would be, what would be your one tip that any product leader could start taking tomorrow? So if tomorrow, you took all of this, tomorrow, what would be the one tip that takes away?
That's the one.
Treat your organization as a product. All right.
I think always keep in mind that you are gathering a unique group of people with a single purpose, and ultimately your goal is to deliver value. And you must keep that in mind so that you can always challenge yourself that, do I have the right people? Are we working the right way? And is our goals still clear? And are we sure that we'll still organize in a way that will help us achieve our goals?
Nice. Thanks. This is great. For everyone else, thank you for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone.
It was very helpful. You will receive the full recording within the hour, and also a few snippets, and hope that is helpful. Once you receive them, feel free to share also your learnings and insights with Timoté by connecting with him, I guess, on LinkedIn, or then reaching out to us afterwards. So thank you all. Have a great rest of Friday and a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.